Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America, where we're always going to give you something to talk about. I remember a song back in the day, in the 80s or the 90s, by one of my favorite old school favorites, Bonnie Raitt, and she said, let's give them something to talk about. So today with us, those usual suspects are with us here on today. If you're looking via our social media stream, you'll see two other very young, I don't know if I'd say attractive, but debonair young men, or an old guy and a young guy. But we have Mark Bassett, my co-host. Mark, what's going on?
Not too much. Just back in town for a little while.
Mark has been out doing a ton of work, visiting kids, all of that great stuff, and now he's back. We're going to talk about what he's got going on most recently, because I think it's something that we all have to deal with, and that's when we talk about our parents we're getting older. You know, a part of life is that you come in, you're young, you're youthful, you get older, you get your driver's license, and then you die. No, not so much in that order, but life has stages, and so his parents are entering into that next stage of life. So I'm interested in that, Mark. But we also have our producer who's in the social media stream. He's also on air with us today. John B. in the place to be. What's good, John?
Hello, hello.
What's cooking? So we're here today, and so I want to get it. Mark, you were sharing with us before we got on air, and I just want you to talk, because I'm looking. My mom is now. She's entered that. I don't want to say twilight. She's
the last leg of the race, the final lap.
Mom's in the twilight zone.
Mom, if
the
you're watching
bell
this,
lap. The bell lap.
Mom, yeah, she's 70 years old, right? 70 plus years old.
That's still young.
I mean, it is, but
Yeah.
but it's you got more years behind you. Actually, both of us, I as well. We have probably more years behind us than we have ahead of us. And then when you hit 70, the reality of life and our mortality begins to be a real issue. Mark, she fell a couple of days ago doing something that she always does, going up a step, and this is why it was interesting to me. She was going. There's a small step in the one of the bathrooms on the lower level. And I think she was going in to do some laundry. I don't know if the sheets got her leg or whatever, but she fell. So yesterday was kind of a day of crisis, and we're kind of like, oh, I hope she's okay. At that age, it's crazy to say that at that age, because she doesn't seem old to me, because she's always been mom. You start wondering about, hey, you can't get broken hips and those things. So gratefully she's fine.
Mortality for someone that age that breaks a hip is like 50%. I mean, it's high.
Yeah, it's so these are all concerns, and it was a great concern. So yesterday I spent a little bit of time just kind of making sure she was okay. But you're dealing with parents who are just a little bit older, and they're at another stage of life. When we talk about twilight years, I guess that would be what we're talking about. So Mark, share with us what's going on.
Sure. Well, my dad is 80, just turned 89 actually while we were there. We were there last week for 5 days. My mom is 86. My dad, I would say, has been in kind of a long, steady, slow decline physically and kind of mentally. So it's difficult for him to get around. He's very weak. He's lost a lot of weight. He's also starting to not be able to control his bladder, especially well. And then mentally, he's still, I think he knows what he wants to say, and he's got an idea in his brain. He's cognizant, but he has a super hard time communicating it because he can't find the words. So if he wants to go to, say, down the hall, he'll say, well, I really want to go, and he can't find the down the hall, and he'll try to explain it different ways, but he knows what he wants to do. My mom has basically been taking care of him because he can't take care of himself, but she's 86. So the kind of the pressure physically and mentally of doing that for a while now really caught up with her. She's had to go to the hospital a couple times in the last month. She fell as well. Other times we don't know exactly, but she needed to go to the hospital. Fortunately, they have a group of friends that were able to come in and stay with my dad, because again, he can't probably even spend the night alone, without somebody. I mean, what's been kind of surprising to me, unfortunately, my mom doesn't listen to the show, is just the super rapid decline mentally for her. So physically, she can still get around. She's fine. And what's really gone is her short-term memory. So like you can explain to her, Mom, you have to press this button to turn off the alarm clock. And 30 seconds later, it's like you didn't even have the discussion. And, that'll go on every 30 seconds for 25 minutes, And so it's obviously to the point now, her trying to take care of my dad, it's a recipe for disaster. So we moved him last week into, my sister flew down about a month ago, helped them pick out an assisted living facility, and I moved them in last week, which was, they've been in their house for 47 years. And the older you get, I think harder change. Some people are not actually naturally good at change, and I'd say that's them. And as the older they get, change is even harder. So it had some good hours and some bad hours during those few days of moving. So
I would imagine a lot of memories and thoughts and things, all of that being wrapped into that entire process of moving. 47, you said, years of
47 years in that house. Yeah.
So what do you do, Mark? Okay. And I think that this conversation to me, it's super interesting because I think so many people have to deal with this. This is an inevitable part of life. How do you manage, like really just emotionally, just thinking out the process of moving parents at a very vulnerable age out of a place that is the only place that they know to call home. 47 years of movement. What do you do with the stuff? How does that happen? What did you do?
Well, this is kind of one step at a time. They're not, the way we were able to get them to move, it was to say like, well, your house is still there. And if this is a disaster, you can kind of go back to your house. Obviously, we're never going to let that happen. And so, this is, for us anyway, this is a step-by-step process. The first step was just to get them out of the house into assisted living. You typically have to furnish those places. So she worked with a friend of hers to pick out the furniture she wanted to use, as well as, artwork and stuff for the walls. Frankly, the hardest thing was getting their clothes and their bathrooms moved because, friends tried to come in there and help her pick out stuff ahead. She would have none of it. There was always an excuse she couldn't do it. So when the movers came, it all had to go, and so the hard part, frankly, was everything is in this much smaller facility room. And now I have to work with my dad and mom to say, okay, you can have only less than half of your clothes. My dad, frankly, was easy because, again, he's kind of, for the most part, just sitting there. He doesn't have a strong opinion, and I just picked out stuff. My mom was the really, really tough one because she just feels like she needs everything. And there's like super nice clothes that she still has. And I'm like, Mom, where are you going to wear these? And she's like, well, when I lecture at church. And I'm like, well, Mom, you haven't lectured at church for like 5 years, but you'd have that same conversation every 3 minutes. We're like, well, isn't there a coat closet in here? No, Mom, there's not a coat closet in here. 3 minutes later, well, isn't there a coat closet in here? No, Mom, there's not. So basically, I tried a bunch of different lines of logic to get her to downsize. Finally, it was like, well, what do you need for the summer? Let's just choose that. Let's take the winter stuff home, and I'll put it back in your closet, and you can have one of your friends, go flip-flop clothes as the seasons change. So knowing that the reality is she's not going to need heavy winter clothes because she's hardly ever going to be leaving the facility.
So Mark, for you as a son, and you say you and your sister were doing this work. Okay, so you as a son and your sister, what is the emotional impact for you, Mark? Because for me, I don't even want to think about that time coming because it just makes the reality of life so real. How do you manage that? What are you feeling in this moment?
For me, frankly, the decision to move them was very easy because, again, I just look at it logically of like, and even like in my sister, because ultimately them staying in that house is just a recipe for imminent disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, a real disaster. And like my sister who struggled with like, well, what if we move him and a week later dad dies and mom blames us? And I'm like, I don't really care if she blames me. I know in my heart of hearts we're making the right decision. And, you know, and I've kind of spent a career making really tough decisions that most people don't want to make. But I made them because I felt like they were the right decision, and it doesn't bother me.
How do you separate that emotion when it's something in your personal life? Like at work, yeah, I'll make a tough decision. But if I'm talking,
I've always been good at compartmentalizing those things, Jonathan. Like I've had to fire friends. Yeah, I've always been good at like, this is what I have to do, you know. And
hey, Bob, I got good news. Dinner and drinks are on me tonight. The bad news is you got to leave right now. You're fired.
You got to leave. You got to leave. Well, yeah, you got to leave.
So Mark, go ahead.
To me, it was an easy decision. I have no regrets. You know, and again, this has been, you know, they're 89 and 86, and this is horrible to say, but my dad's quality of life at this point is really bad, poor. And there's a part of me that just, you know, for his sake, and frankly, for my mom's sake, because it's weighing on her and she can't be her full self when he's like that. There's a part of me that just kind of hopes, and this is a horrible thing to say, but that he dies in his sleep one night and over the next few months.
That was a very, very hard thing to hear, Mark. But yeah. I'm going to say this because we say that, and I think this conversation, for people who hear it and that are dealing with these end of life decisions and challenging, we had no idea we were going to go this way, because I would talk about this forever. But I think this is going to resonate with so many people who are dealing with aging parents. We had a situation with my grandparents. You know, my grandparents have been gone for a while now, but my grandfather was bedridden for 22 years, and my grandmother was 80 years old, taking care of an 82-year-old man who could not get up. He couldn't change his clothes. He could, all of the things that you're talking about. Yeah. And, the family supported as much as can. But, when you're getting calls in the middle of the night and he wants to get up and, and all of these things, you now are putting, your elderly parent in a position that if something were to happen, there's nothing that she can do. And so there, as you talked about, imminent tragedy, it's bad. And so I do remember, like, my prayer being for my grandmother, that I just prayed that she would be able to enjoy, like, give her 5 years to enjoy her life.
Right.
She spent 22 years of their time together. They were married for 62. 22, a third of those years were taking care of a bedridden husband. And her not complaining and doing that work, which, your parents, my grandparents, they were people of a different age. Nowadays, I think that a spouse might check that person in and be like, okay, I can't do it, I'm on to the next. But it is both tragic. There's a tragedy, a beautiful tragedy in this moment, because there is that, what every person hopes to find in life. Jonathan is over here preparing for those nuptials, but, for better, for worse, in sickness and health, till death do you part. And the reality of that, seeing it play out, is both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, to know that you can have this, that your heart says, I'm going to do this, I can do this, but just the physical reality of the matter puts limitations on those things. So, Mark, you said something powerful. Your hope is, and it was a statement of love, because you would hope that your mom would be able to be free from the burden of having to feel like she's responsible for this.
She can still get around. She wants, I believe that she just refuses to leave his side. And so, like, I left on Sunday. I called her from Reagan Airport at about 11 just to see if the alarm went off. It was the first day I wasn't there to check the alarm went off. And she couldn't get my dad up, and that people hadn't come in to get him up yet. And so she went down to breakfast alone, and she met a lady, and she had and she was like happy about, like, well, I had this great breakfast, and I had, this great conversation with this interesting lady. And that's hard for her to do, like if she's at home. because ultimately they were afraid to go out because he might get sick, something might happen. And so while they have a great community of friends that visited them pretty regularly, the reality is most days they were locked in a pretty small house, alone and to themselves, just trying to live day to day.
And so
very little human interaction.
So her life, the remainder or this portion of her life has been arrested by taking care of her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you out there, I'm interested. If you hear this and you're listening to this, maybe you hear it on the social media stream, what are your thoughts about that? How would you handle this situation? And if you've been through it, hey, just give some tips, give some insight on what helped it to be better. How did you get through it, manage it? Because to me, Mark, it's a tough situation, and my heart and prayers. Seems like we've been saying that quite a bit, Mark. But God's been bringing miracles your way, so I'm gonna feel good about that. But the miracle of having your parents, Dad is 89, you said?
80, just turned 89.
Wow. Mom is how old?
86.
Man, that is a real blessing in and of itself. But we're going to change and we're going to get to some other things. I need to know what Jonathan's got going on, Mark. We got to change the atmosphere because
I want to see how the wedding plans are going.
What's going on with the wedding? Dun, 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 dun. I should have had some rice in here so I could throw rice at him.
I'm not married yet.
They don't do that anymore, Kareem. They don't do that anymore. It's bad for the
That's
bird.
a whole meal. But go ahead. What's going on, Jonathan? How are the plans going?
It's going good. Things are the thing was early on in this whole process, she made it very clear that her family loves planning events like this.
Yeah.
And so they've really taken it on big time. And there have been a few things that she and I are like, no, this is going to be this way.
Okay.
But it's been going very smooth.
What are one of those things, Jonathan? If you don't mind, what are one of the things that you thought were kind of like, oh, no, we want to own this piece of this?
The desserts at the reception. And I'm not going to say any more than that.
That's important. You get the wrong dessert at the reception, it could be a nightmare. But go ahead, Mark. What are you saying?
That's the most important thing. What are you going to have, Jonathan? Can you tell us what you're going to have?
I'm not going to say any more than that. My fiance is a baker, a really, really, really good baker.
Okay, fiance with the good baking skills. Okay, we see you.
And she has very developed opinions about what she wants at her reception, and I support her wholeheartedly.
Hey, does it have anything to do with what I'm doing right now, Jonathan?
I don't know what you're doing right now.
I'm cheesing.
Oh, no.
Okay. I just thought I would ask.
Okay.
But for those of you who are out there, when you see this, you're like, okay, what was that whole piece that Kareem just did? That was a colloquialism, and when I did this simply meant clock that. Like, okay, I see you. Okay, so, because I know half the world's like, clock that. Then the rest of them were like, okay, what is he doing? Why is he?
I don't know what that means, but I'm too old.
I just gave it to you, Mark. I'm helping you to understand the current situation. So, Jonathan, Tux, what color are we wearing?
I'm wearing black.
Classic black?
Classic black. The groomsmen are wearing like a beige.
Okay. Are you going to wear a top hat and tails?
No.
And
I'm just wearing a suit.
Is it a peak lapel, shawl collar, or notch collar tuxedo?
Suit.
A suit. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. A black suit. Interesting. Okay.
What's interesting about a black suit? Isn't that kind of standard? Oh, instead of a tux, you mean?
Instead of a tux.
Yeah. Well, is it a formal wedding? Obviously, it's not formal then.
But
no,
Mark,
if you're wearing a suit, it's not formal.
Mark, let me bring you back just a couple generations down. This is kind of the trend that many couples are doing. They're getting away from the stuffy tuxedo that you rent at a store, and they buy a nice quality suit, get it tailored to fit how they need it to fit. Yeah. And now they have that, and they can use it. It's a practical way to live.
Curiosity, why not blue, Jonathan? A dark blue or something.
It goes well with your eyes, Jonathan. The blue does.
Well, and it would go well with the tan suits that your groomsmen are wearing.
I could do that, I guess.
Like a navy blue is what you're talking, Mark?
Yeah, because it's more versatile than a black suit. You think funeral when you think black suit.
Mark, you know this is your space. Mark, those of you who don't know,
Jonathan, I'll be happy to take you shopping.
Well,
are you going to pay, Mark? Hold on, Jonathan. Let me work this out for you.
Hold on.
Jonathan, I'll be happy to buy him a good suit.
Oh, Jonathan, score. Hey, I got the accessories. Accessories.
The thing is,
we're going to dress you up, powder your bottom, and get you out there on the runway.
I think this is a show. Shopping with Jonathan for his wedding.
Shopping with Jonathan.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so wait a minute. We got an offer on the table that I think that this is.
I might take you up on it. I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Mark, listen. Let me tell you this. I've seen Mark's collection. Mark likes to dress. Mark's dressed well, and Mark likes quality. So if Mark is inviting you to his world, getting a suit by Mark is being invited into a new world. But if he's interested in doing that, I would do the accessories. I'll do accessories, Mark.
What does that mean? Like shirt and tie and shoes? What do you mean accessories?
Shirt, ties. If you want to do shoes, we'll do shoes and what else? Socks.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
We're gonna make him a well-dressed man.
We're gonna go down to Somerset. We'll go down to Somerset.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Can I put it on layaway? I'll get the tie this month, the shirt next month. No, but I think, and I think that this is a great idea. I love it, Jonathan. What do you say to this proposal?
I would need to take it up with my fiance because
she's smiling, going, "Are you crazy? Take the deal.
I'm not.
This is deal or no deal."
I wouldn't get a crazy suit. I would get just a classic navy blue suit. We would probably go to J. Crew. You're a thin, tall, thin guy. You'd probably be able to find one right off the rack. I've got a number of J. Crew suits. They're pretty good. We could get you some Cole Haan shoes to go with the gray suit. The blue suit. So
I hate that I'm saying this, and I never thought I would say this in a million years, but I'm feeling like Wayne Brady here on Deal or No Deal. Jonathan, are you going to take the suit that's behind door number 1? Are you going to take this deal that Mark is going through? What say you, Jonathan?
I'm not giving an answer until I clear it with my fiance.
You're going to be married a long time. A smart man. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I want those of you out there in the social media stream, should Jonathan take the suit? Take the suit. We're going to get him dressed up, powder him like a baby, and put him on that runway. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more United Shades of Grey.
You're listening to United Shades of Grey on WSGW.
This is Kareem, and you're back with more United Shades of Grey, conversations of race in America. If you're noticing a laughter in my voice, it's because at the end of the last segment, we challenged Jonathan to take the suit. And I hope you do take us up on that suit and allow Mark and a little of his pizzazz. He's going to be controlled pizzazz because Mark will put you in plaids and stripes. But he's going to get some controlled pizzazz, and I think it's going to be a really good look. I'm excited that if you give us the opportunity, what's your just give me your first name. Sydney, this is my most earnest plea to you. Please allow us to do this for you and for Jonathan.
The other thing we could do, you remember Monty Holland, the designer? I could reach out to Monty and say, hey, Monty, would love to bring Jonathan down and help have you style him.
The Taeyon collection.
There's 3 months. We don't have a lot of time.
Hey, you got everybody you need right here in a 3-part circle. Yeah. So, but we're good. Let's get to our conversation on today. Even though this is, I am still kind of chuckling because I love this conversation on the inside. For everyone that's out there, I wanted to have a conversation that kind of talks about some of the real things that have happened. There's been a lot that has been going on that we got volumes of information that we could talk about for a long time. That's happening not only in our government, but cases with the Carmelo Anthony thing coming out. Just situations. Ben Crump now is jumping in with, for those of you who don't know, Ben Crump is the civil rights attorney. He is kind of like the new era of Johnny Cochran, assembling yet another, this is crazy, dream team. We heard back, remember in the 90s, I think it was 1990, there was Johnny Cochran and his dream team with O.J. Simpson and the famous line, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. We now have a new young man who's out there doing civil rights attorney law, and Ben Crump is absolutely amazing. He's decided to take up this appeal for Carmelo Anthony. If you guys don't know this, go Google Carmelo Anthony, track star, track folks who are in a track meet. There's a murder that takes place under the tent. There's a lot of speculation. A lot of the thoughts about what should happen, what has happened, even though there was a guilty verdict there, are under speculation. And what I think, and my perception of this, a lot of it are down racial lines. White folks are saying, he's guilty, he shouldn't have been there. Black folks are saying this is not the same kind of justice that's being perpetrated for other folks. But it is what it is, right? So we're going to talk about those things and get into some of those things as conversation. But I want to talk today about the new civil rights era, kind of the men in crisis. There's a whole thing with men, and particularly young men being in crisis that's being reported. And then, how are we dealing with the politics of division? A big, tall order for conversation on today, but I think that it's something that we can do. I want to give a shout out to everybody who's listening to us on WSGW 100.5 and 790 AM simulcast. I want to thank those individuals who are here from this great radio station, this great media market that is allowing us to do this on a regular basis, and for those of you who tune in and listen. Connoisseur Media is the name of the game. I had to think about it for a second because I was going to give us the old name. But check in, continually tune in, Jonathan. They can hear this when?
They can hear us Saturday mornings 6, Sunday evenings at 7.
Or is it 7 and 7?
No, it's 6 and 7.
6 and 7. He knows better than I do.
Or anytime.
6, 7.
Anytime online, WSGW.com is the best place to find that for the podcast version.
All right, so I titled this "The New Civil Rights Era" because there's so much that has changed in terms of what we're dealing with. We see so much legislation taking place, and as my mind just jumped in, the whole issue with J.D. Vance being ignored when they were having this, power brokers lunch with world leaders is a whole nother conversation. But there's a lot happening. But because this is about race in America, there's some things that I wanted to talk about. And President Obama referred to what's taking place with this current administration as the new Jim Crow. Do you guys understand what we mean by that? What's being meant by that? Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so
why don't you explain it for the audience? Kareem?
Yeah, so for the audiences out there, a lot of the thing, Jim Crow was a time in which it was post-slavery. It was pre the civil rights era, and it was after the black codes. So once folks were enslaved, slavery was abolished by the Emancipation Proclamation. That came in, folks were free. Now they were free, but they didn't have jobs, and it became illegal. They started these black codes. It was illegal to have a job and not have a job. It was illegal to be homeless. So black folks ended up on the very same plantations working off their debts as indentured servants now, kind of. The same plantations that they were once on, this time still not getting any labor, but working in these same places, being arrested, all of those things. Then we moved into the Jim Crow era, which we kind of move into that place where there were these laws that were created to keep black folks and white folks separate. There were laws in terms of where black people could be, those sundown laws, those sundown cities, and we still have some of those in existence, where black folks couldn't be seen in certain sides of town. And we moved into the era of lynching and all of those other things. And so referring to the fact that blacks were free but did not have representation. They were free
but less than.
Yeah, free but less than representation. And so that is what I believe it was President Obama, and I was listening to one of his speeches. He referred to it as, are we entering into this new Jim Crow? And it's been something that I've heard sentiments echoed by other political leaders, black political leaders. What are your thoughts about the framing of this current time using the black Jim Crow because of the dismantling of some of the civil rights ideas and principles and legislation? What are your thoughts about that framework or that framing of what's happening?
Well, I guess for me, we've had kind of similar discussions in the past. I think, I like to separate the discussion with, where have we come from up to this administration? Then this administration, which I think is a unique administration, that I think the time of this administration will pass, and we'll go back to more like what we were before this administration, if any of that makes sense.
So you think that there'd be kind of like a regathering and a resetting of where we are as a nation, moving back somewhat towards center somewhere?
I think so.
What are your
personally
thoughts? What do you think, Johnny? You shook your head because I kind of believe like you.
We're not going to move back towards center until something big changes, but I think I follow where you're going here, Mark. So I'm going to let you keep going.
Well,
this isn't about the politics.
Yeah, I think this is a very unique administration, which has taken a very hardline stance. I like I said, I think it's hard to look at everything that's been done and the actions of this administration and not come to a conclusion that a lot of this is kind of racially motivated, and ultimately it is what it is, and it's a huge step backward, I think, from where we were. I do think it won't happen instantaneously as soon as this administration ends, but I think there will be a movement back towards the center that will take time.
Okay.
I think so. Where were we before this administration? I think, again, we've talked about this before as well. I think it's hard to argue that we haven't come a long way in moving towards racial and gender equality. Are we where we need to be? Probably not, but it's miles from where it was 70 years ago.
What do you think, Jonathan? You said you don't believe there's going to be a movement.
It's not about the politics. That's not what I want to focus on here. But no, I don't think we're in the new Jim Crow era. I don't think there are things that people can't. I don't think there are restrictions as there were then. The question I would ask, and I'm going to ask it, and then I'm going to keep going with my point. Is what's something that black people can't do now that white people can by law? That's the question, and kind of my answer to it is nothing. There's the same. We're on that level playing field, and when we look at, as you said, some of the dismantling of some of these programs, I've said before that I could see a reason behind some of these programs being implemented. I didn't think they were executed well, and I think looking back, we are at a point socially as a country, as a society, where some of these training wheels where the government is mandating certain things aren't as needed anymore. And so taking off those training wheels and riding on our own isn't a bad idea.
And I appreciate that. I would ask the question, what gives you the feeling or the understanding that things have changed to a degree that they no longer are needed?
So so let's take a local company, local Fortune 100 company.
Yeah.
Do you think of Fortune 100, and I don't know if they're still Fortune 100 anymore, to be quite honest, based on what their stock has done, but the Dow company, you have a black female CEO, you have a black CFO, you have a female general counsel. Do you think that could have existed 50 years ago?
Not in the manner that it has, but this is my question. And my question was not only directed toward that, and your point is well taken that there have been some advances. So, and I think that in terming the new Jim Crow, it wasn't the fact that we are exactly in the same place. I think nobody would say that we're exactly in the same place, but we are fighting some of the very same battles. And to your point, Mark, I don't know if you follow the Dow Chemical and their stocks upon the announcement of an African American woman who would be taking the helm in several different positions. What happened in those particular situations to those valuations, and we can tie it to a lot of things, but I continually want to say that how many other companies, Mark, you took that one? How many other companies resemble that kind of a makeup?
Well, I haven't done the research. Like I said,
but that was the example you used. So if we're going to use that,
I know that example because I know Dow Chemical intimately, and I'm local.
1%,
for example, like
one. Let me help you. 1%. That model represents less than 1%, but 1% of all of the major companies in this country are headed by African American CEOs.
Well, as I said, do I think we made progress? Yes. Are we necessarily where we need to be? Probably not.
Right. So back to what Jonathan was stating and his point that he was making. And it's interesting because this is where we bring that word in that everybody loves when we talk about systemic issues that exist or systemic racism. And so I think that although there have been some growth opportunities, and I think that there have, I agree with you about government mandates, 1,000%. And I think that if we're able to create a system that never had government mandates, things such as nepotism, or, I'm going to open the door for my son to come and take over. And we continually operated by a standard that was the best person fits the job. That I don't think that the government should be in those things. However, and for those who are listening, the reason that the government said that we needed to get involved and start mandating certain principles and ideologies, not mandating who gets a job, but mandating the fact that the pool that the selection comes from, and Mark, you'll understand this by your company that you work, the pool has to be consistent or at least reflective of the population. And so what would happen was the states would say, hey, we gave up our slaves. We didn't want to do it. And it was, the Mason-Dixon line. It was a fight for slavery. The Civil War was about a fight for slavery, nothing else. And in doing so, not only are we giving up our slaves, we're not willing to give up these freedoms to these newcomers or these folks that are here in this nation. So it became an issue in which states were Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Texas. All of those southern states were like, we're not doing it. So the federal government had to come in and say, listen, we are these United States of America. And this Constitution, though flawed, it implies and it should mean the same thing for all people. And so that is why the federal government got involved, was because the states refused to have the equality option in how they were governing and how they were moving and mobility. That's why we have so many black people in federal government, or had, previous to this administration.
And the fundamental question in my mind, though, is do you still need that? I mean, this is, I think, Jonathan, I'm speaking for you, so correct me if I'm wrong. Your argument was we had those laws historically because they were needed. And the question becomes is, do you still need those laws today? Because I do think how you go about driving equality needs to evolve as the times change. And
I'm going to turn the question a little bit.
Okay.
Have equal opportunity employment and other protections similar to that been dismantled?
Yes. A lot of those things have been taking place. And we are focusing on the dismantling of the pieces of what has taken place under this administration. But since 1972, there has been a continual attempt to do so. I mentioned to you all John Roberts' attempt to do so in 1984 with the civil rights, his attempt to limit some of those civil rights things. So what we see in terms of voting, so what we see is a continual evolution from the time that it started. You got to understand that if there are opposing forces in terms of how we view something, half of the country feels this way, the other half of the country feels this way, and then even the half of the country that says slavery is wrong is not an absolute slavery is wrong, right? It is a slavery is wrong because they're humans, but there is sometimes a nuanced approach. I don't think that we should be able to treat them this way, but it's not an absolute, right? And there are some people that were saying we absolutely believe it's wrong. So in these things, as you go, the Constitution was written before slavery was abolished. That should be an indication that the ideologies of slavery that caused, that enabled and allowed it to last so long in the United States, if it existed before the Constitution, and then the Constitution existed before the abolition of slavery, then I would think that the ideologies of slavery would be in place, and we see that because many of our governing presidents own slaves. So the ideas and principles of discrimination, of degradation of a particular people were held by the founding fathers of our nation. So they're going to create an ideal. We weren't even considered a full human. So it didn't apply to us. And so those principles and those ideas and those systems and those policies were inherent. And that's what we mean when we say when we say that something is systemic. They are inherent in the process.
You're leaving out a heck of a lot of historical context in that.
Well,
not
sure.
everybody, that was not the prevailing necessarily. The prevailing, everybody owned slaves, and this is what it's going to be. There were abolitionists at the founding of the
Black,
country.
whites, absolutely.
Many of them were involved with the founding fathers. Many early drafts of our founding documents include exhortations against slavery, and that's a movement that grew.
Is an exhortation an inclusion of?
So here's the thing. In order to remain unified, they made concessions. And
we'd rather concede to allow slaves to exist than to divide the Union.
And that's bad.
Right.
Like I'm not saying.
I think it's very bad.
But you leave that out, and it's everybody thought slavery was a good thing back then. Hold on.
Go ahead.
That opinion, that abolitionist idea grew. We go through the Civil War. We go through the Civil Rights Movement. And I would rather take a generational look at it of who's in charge right now. Is it the current generation? Like, where are the generations lying? What world did they grow up in? I think when I say we should take some of these training wheels off and we can do away with some of these, I'm looking at the society that is built kind of by the younger people and how the people who are going to be taking these companies over in the next 10, 15, 20 years behave and interact with each other. And I would say we're moving in such a right direction that a lot of these protections are doing more harm than good in certain instances. And that's kind of the opinion that is driving some of this policy.
Harm to who? Who's being harmed?
When people are incentivizing hiring based on skin color, there's harm to people that aren't that skin color.
I don't think that there's an incentivization of that, but I think that there is a drive to get people to understand that.
I'm talking about laws.
Okay.
I'm not talking about other programs. Private entities can do what private entities want to do.
Absolutely. So we were talking about laws before we jumped 70 years forward. And I was saying, which I think any reasonably minded person would say, that if I'm going to create a game, and let's call this game the game of rocks. I'm going to create a game, and I'm in this game, we're defining what rocks are. And I see these boulders over here. I don't consider those boulders rocks. So I'm going to put in this game, all of the people that are going to make and define the laws are all going to be these smaller rocks. And as we continue, we're going to 100 years down the road, we're going to say, maybe those boulders are rocks. We'll let them come in and be rocks. All of the key positions that are at the table are all small rocks. All of the land and everything that's been purchased, if you're looking at Monopoly, was all purchased by the small rocks. 100 years down the road, we're going to say, hey, we're going to let you come in. Now you're going to be considered rocks, but we're not going to let you on the board. Now you got to spin your dice and get a double deuce before you can come and play the game.
And now let's go 125 years after that. That's where we're at.
So what I'm saying is there has been in this nation an incentivization. You want to talk about incentives, there's been an incentive to not have black folks involved in politics for a very long time. And then when we got to this idea of creating a more perfect union and extending that, the extension went beyond black people and began to benefit white women. And so what I'm saying to you, and I agree with you on, is that the government should not be the entity that has to do it. We as people, as Americans, should say this is best for us, a more perfect union. But we do not, because we have an inability to look beyond ourselves and to really try to benefit ourselves over other people. That is the element of capitalism. Me, my, four, and no more.
That's human nature. Don't attribute that to capitalism.
But I think that they go together.
Everything.
But I think that they go together. I think it is human nature, and I think that capitalism is how do we exercise human nature that we can end out on top of this situation. This is a conversation that we're not going to leave. We're going to come back to this next week, and we're going to continue because I think that there are a lot of conversations that are surrounding, and we're going to get into this. Are we really a more perfect union? Are we moving forward, or are some of the things that we're doing trending backwards? Are we better than we are, as you say, Jonathan, and it's just the media that is portraying things as being so divisive, or do we have work to do as a nation? Mark, I want to thank you. Mark is like, hey, I'm over here in my own zen. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Grace and peace.